Hello and welcome back to Core Finance in association with the NEX Exchange. I'm joined by Joe McTaggart, CEO and founder of Walls and Futures REIT PLC. Thank you for coming on to the show, Joe.
Thank you.
So, first off, Walls and Futures REIT, who are you? What do you do? Where do you operate?
Okay. Well, Walls and Futures is a real estate investment trust. We're a property company that has a portfolio of property. And a real estate investment trust is a business that looks at generating healthy income for shareholders. Part of the benefits of a REIT is that we get tax breaks in the form of we don't pay corporation tax and we don't pay any income tax on the income that we generate from our property portfolio. But to get those, we have to pay out 90% of our income in the form of a dividend to our shareholders.
Good stuff. And you mentioned obviously the tax breaks, and that probably leads on quite well to your investment focus being in social housing, and particularly on supported housing.
Yep.
Why have you moved into this area, and would you look at other areas of social housing?
Well, we actually started off as a business investing in London in the private rented sector in our previous fund, the Walls and Futures London Growth Fund. And when we restructured the business, one of the things that our investors were looking for was income. And part of that, we said, right, we'd look at that. And one of our supporters said, listen, there's a marketplace, there's social housing, would you have a look at it? And one of the key things about social housing is that it generates long-term income and stable. It's a good quality place to find income, as opposed to your private rental sector where you do have short-term, short-hold tenancies, 6 or 12 months. But the more we looked into the sector, and particularly supported housing, it was that there's a huge amount of need. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, supported housing is housing with care for probably some of the most vulnerable people in society. So it covers people who may have learning or physical disabilities, mental health needs, or someone who's gone through a life-changing accident. And it's housing with care that enables them to live more independently. And currently, as it stands of today, there's a shortage of about 15,000 places. Over the next 2 years, it's estimated to grow to about 26,000. And believe it or not, by 2025, we're looking at a shortfall of about 45,000 places. So there's actually a lot that can be done. There's a lot of capacity that we need to address, and so from a social point of view, and the impact that we can make there, and it provides good long-term income. So it's a win-win, really.
So there's certainly a lot of scope for growth in your area, and it's important that Walls and Futures are active.
Yep.
And there's definitely a need to be in this area. So to grow, you're going to have to make acquisitions, and yep. I believe recently you've made an acquisition.
Absolutely. Our most recent acquisition is a Grade 2 freehold detached house in the market town of Stroud in the Cotswolds. Beautiful building, and working with a national charity, it's been redeveloped and an investment has been made to provide housing for 6 individuals. And we did that in 20 weeks, so it was a really quick delivery. And what we have is 3 self-contained apartments at the front of the building, which will enable 3 people to live independently, and a unit at the back, an apartment at the back for 3 people, which for people with slightly higher needs. So it has a track and hoist system and a specialist bathing systems, the bath rises and falls, to enable better care for the people who live there and make it easier for carers. And coming back actually very quickly to your last question, was that as far as social housing, supported is definitely an area that we'll be targeting and focusing in the short term, but social housing is actually quite a large market space, and we'll also be looking to provide something called extra care, which is housing with support for people over 55, and also general needs, which unfortunately right now it's targeting and building homes which will predominantly used by people who are homeless, so which is a huge problem throughout the country.
So Joe, in the property investment business, there's a lot of kind of talk about democratising investment and allowing people to get in and invest. It seems like previously this has been the privilege of just wealthy buy-to-let property investors. So obviously, being a listed company, you're opening that up to other investors, and as such, democratising property investment. How does this? Well, if you make property in the sector, how is that seen as fair and just to investors. Can you just explain that?
Well, when we talk about the kind of democratisation of property investment, is up until, well, a lot of people have been investing in buy-to-let property, but increasingly it's becoming more and more difficult. Changes from central government has meant that deposits, you need a larger deposit than you would have maybe 5 to 10 years ago. You'll soon no longer be able to claim back interest, offset that against your income. And recently changes to stamp duty, the extra 3%. And for many that now just pushes property investment, which historically has been a fantastic way to save for your later years. It is now out of reach. But investing in a company like Walls & Futures is an accessible way. So we're a quoted company, so we're on the NEX Exchange, and you can invest in us directly by buying shares, or you could use your pension, your SIP, or a child trust fund, or an ISA. So it's a very good way of investing and getting some exposure, and it doesn't have to be a lot. You don't need tens of thousands to invest. You can buy one share. But it also means that you also access a portfolio, so you're spreading your risk. And one of the things about property, and it was only more recently that I've kind of really picked up on this investment as we did the work for REIT PLC, Walls & Futures, was that historically investing in property, people have kind of bought a property, got a mortgage, and then the traditional strategy is to rent it out, and it kind of covers, the rent kind of washes its face. You know, that's the typical kind of viewpoint. And then what will happen is we'll make all the money when the property values go up. But when we were doing the work, one of the pieces of research that we found from Morgan Stanley, they run a set of indexes that look at property, and they found that actually 90% of the return from property comes from the income, and 80% of the risk comes from the capital aspect. So people have actually been looking at property completely wrong if we base it on what's actually happening. So really what you should be looking at is investing in something like a REIT, which is all about income, and we're actually one of the few residential REITs. So when we talk about kind of democratising, we're kind of opening it up and hopefully giving people a strategy which means they can make a great return and actually make a social impact.
So Joe, we've seen the stock price rise from about 67.5p up to about 84.5p since your results. You updated the market, I believe, on the 30th of August. That's an incredible rise and one that shouldn't be sniffed at. Would you like to give an explanation as to why you've seen that rise in the share price?
Well, I believe we've seen that increase in our share price for the following reasons. Is that we joined the market roughly a year ago, November 2016, and I think as a new business, there's a lot to be said for we will be doing something, and this is our business plan. And I think over the last 12 months, the management team have executed. So we've made our first social housing investment, and in fact, that to a national charity, and that's been leased on a 25-year lease with the rents increasing with inflation, and subsequently, we've executed. We've gone on to join the social stock exchange. So we're making very positive moves in creating the platform that we need for future growth. And hopefully, what investors are seeing and what's being reflected in the price is belief in our plans, and we've shown that we can do it.
And you mentioned the social stock exchange, and you are a member of the social stock exchange, I should say. Can you just give us a brief explanation of what that actually means, what the social stock exchange is, and more importantly, what it actually means for your company?
Well, the social stock exchange is Europe's only regulated marketplace for companies who are looking to make a positive social impact. It possibly, the way I would kind of describe it is almost like the fair trade of investment. More and more now, ethical investment or people looking to make a positive social impact with their investment is becoming more prevalent. And it's a way for people to identify those companies that are looking to do that. We have to go through a process, a rigorous process, and produce a report, which is available on the Social Stock Exchange website and our website, so people can see actually what is this company about and how is it making an impact. And I think nowadays, again, it very much people now want to make a choice, and they're more they're just as well. They do wish to make a profit and they do wish to make a return from their investment, but if they can do so and make a positive social impact, I think that's what where people are kind of striving for, and it gives us more visibility to those investors.
So let's look at plans for 2018. We've already touched on the last results. What's in the pipeline, and Do you feel, or do you feel there'll be a need to raise more capital if you are going to look at other projects and acquisitions?
Well, we've had a busy 2017, and 2018 is looking just as busy, and we've been working very hard with our strategic partners throughout the country, and our intention is to raise additional capital in the very near future, which will enable us to make additional investments and continue to make, I guess, the same financial returns and grow the business as we have done, and continue to make a positive social impact as well.
So, Joe, if investors watching the show want to find out more, as we've already mentioned, listed on the NEX Exchange, a member of the Social Stock Exchange, how can they find out more about Walls and Futures?
Well, we hold various kind of investor evenings, and probably the best place is to actually register on our website. And at these evenings, we feel it's a great way for people, existing shareholders and potentially new shareholders, to get to learn and understand our story and what we're trying to achieve as a business. And get involved, ask questions. All our management team's there. So go to our website. We will be holding more in the future, and it's a great place to find news as well. So head to wallsandfutures.com and register there for more events.
Well, all sounds very exciting. In the meantime, Joe, thank you very much for joining us here on Core Finance in association with NEX Exchange.
Thank you very much.